Welcome everyone to Build 38 Part 1. So this is a Caselabs Mercury S5 build, and this is actually a case that I've used for a personal build for a long time. I've had a few Caselabs cases for personal builds, also the original TH10, and I'm pretty sure I was the first person to review the TH10 when it was first released back in the early days of Caselabs. The reason I'm talking about this is because it's just incredibly sad to see what happened to Caselabs, and very surprising because I've been dealing with Caselabs for years. I've purchased from them countless times. Their quality, their consistency, all of the experience that I've had with them has just been perfect, and I've just had incredible experiences with their cases. Their cases, their ideas, their designs have contributed massively to the systems that I've built, and I just cannot even begin to talk about how much fun I've had with their cases. I just want to thank them for all of the contributions that they've made, and I think it's a difficult time to see for us enthusiasts what has happened to them, and I just don't understand how this can happen to such a great company. So I just hope that for them something good possibly came out of it, and that they can move on to something else that they enjoy doing. And yeah, overall, just to massively thank them for their amazing contributions. And we have still quite a lot of Caselabs builds coming up. Certainly a finite number now, but I hope that with the last of our Caselabs builds, we can do them justice. I'm just installing the pump and res combo into the build, and what we're using here is a Singularity Computers PWM D5, the SC Protium D5 black with silver rings pump cover, the Protium polished acrylic D5 pump top, Protium 150mm reservoir, the black polished version, so it has a polished acrylic cap and black retention rings. And we're using Singularity Computers mounting rails on the radiator, which allow you to install the configuration at 15mm steps at any point on the radiator. And these are the 120mm versions. They also come in 140mm for 140, 280, 420mm radiators. And you can see that I've mounted the pump top directly to the radiator with a backplate. So this is a backplate that can be purchased separately. It's 140mm, and at the top I have an ethereal single reservoir mount. So depending on the configuration, you don't really need two reservoir mounts. You can just use the standoffs that come included with the pump top and a backplate at the bottom. And not a lot of people know about this at this point. And we also have other mounting options. Our pump mount, there are just endless ways to mount this configuration, which is really good for tight systems, very tight configurations. For example, even in this config here, we could still fit two D5 pump and res combos side by side with ethereal dual. So the custom paint for this build is all DNA products as always, and the special effect on the outer panels is called Marbleizer. There are quite a lot of different colors to choose from, and you can even go over that with candies. The possibilities are endless. But you could see that I laid down a couple of coats, and then while it's still wet, after about 30 seconds, you use cling wrap over the top, and then you can, push your fingers into it, different objects, or just scrunch up the cling wrap to get different patterns. And it's really endless what you can do with the different patterns on this special effect. And after that, you go over it with a clear coat, and it kind of levels out the bumpiness. It's best to lay the panels flat when you do this, certainly not hang it vertically, and also lay them flat when you do the clear coat. let's take a look around the finished build. So for the color scheme, we have black, silver, and red. And I've included all of these colors in the custom paint job, starting with the special effect on the external panels, the DNA Marbleizer, which I've finished with DNA Custom Clear, a high gloss clear coat. Then on the majority of the internal panels, we have DNA Matte Black, and as a very small accent, DNA Silver Flare Silver Metallic, finished with DNA Matte Clear Coat. So 2 matte finishes and a high gloss finish more on the external. And you know, this creates a nice contrast, and also I'm really liking using the matte paints because they tend to accent the components that you really want to stand out. The acrylic, so the tube, the reservoir cap, the pump top, the nickel plating on the fittings. These are all components you really want to actually stand out, and the matte just kind of fades into the background. It's soft. So for the cables, we've used MPPCX sleeve as always, 3 different colors: Italian red, titanium, and platinum gray. For the lighting, I have used the component lighting for the color scheme. So the motherboard RGB lighting I've set to red, and it's quite subtle on this motherboard. Then we have the red LED fans, and I really like these LED fans because the light doesn't actually shine out too far, and that's something you really want to avoid, is flooding a build with colored light, because it just takes the life and the color out of all of the components. And these fans look really bright on camera, but it's just a bright glow which is confined to the blades themselves. So I really like these fans. And then we have some non-color scheme lighting just to light the build with Aqua Computer RGB LED strips, 1 at the top on each side, and these are controlled from a Farbwork, which is underneath the motherboard tray there, along with the Aquarius 6 LT, just a small mod. For the loop, I've used Singularity Computers 16mm acrylic tube, EK 16mm hardline compression fittings, black nickel, and BitsPower black sparkle fittings. And I've done a bit of a different layout to what I would normally do with this loop. So in the past, when I've done this layout, I've had the radiators, both of them, turned around the other way from where they're at now. So the 280mm radiator at the top, I would usually have the inlet and outlet at this end, and the one at the front, I would usually have the inlet and outlet at the bottom. There's only one rule that I follow when building loops, and that is to take the shortest overall tubing routing. And this gives you the cleanest and most high performance loop. So it's kind of a puzzle. You need to look at the component order that gives you the shortest routing. But in this build, thanks to this 280mm radiator, which has the extra inlets and outlets, there's actually 8 of them. There's the side and the end, and then the top and the bottom. It gave me a lot more options. And so that's why I've turned the radiators around the other way, because I've actually used this side port on the other side. And even though I have this long run here from the pump up to the inlet on the 280mm radiator, the next tube, as you'll see when we take a look around the other side, is extremely short. So it made up for it. So normally I would have gone from there, down to the 280 and then up to the CPU water block. But I've kind of done things around the other way, and it's worked out quite nicely. It's given overall a very short and direct loop. And also, thanks to this multi-port radiator, we have the fill port at the top here on an extension fitting, which is very easy to access. The drainage system, just a BitsPower mini valve connected with a male-to-male fitting to one of the inlets on the pump top. Also worked out very well. All you have to do is remove the side panel, and it's very easy to access. So coming out of the pump there, a 90-degree single, then a 45-degree fitting. I haven't used these for a long time. I hardly ever use them. 90-degree dual. And then we go from the front 280 into the top 280, coming out, a 90-degree dual, straight into the CPU water block, then out and into the GPU with a 90-degree single, out with a 90-degree single, and then going back into the quad port on the Protium reservoir. I've used the 20mm extension just because it was very tight in there and a bit difficult to tighten up that fitting. So I'm definitely loving these XSPC water blocks for a change, and this water block is just insanely high end. It's tempered glass. We have all of this beautiful black nickel plating, just an amazing, elegant looking water block, which I think really suits the build. I think I'm going to be using these a lot more. Not a lot of transparency. That's the thing that people really like about EK is, you know, being able to see through most of the water block. But really you're only looking at the PCB underneath anyway, so I think this looks really cool. So yeah, you can see this short length of tube, and this is really why I turn the radiators around this way. Just goes straight from the front 280 to the top 280 and into the side port, which worked out really nicely, and that has a very slight offset, about 2mm, because they didn't quite line up. So not a whole lot to see around this side. I removed the sticker from the hard drive as always because it just looks so much better. It actually almost turns into a feature without the sticker. No SSDs there. We do have one installed underneath the motherboard tray, but certainly the potential to add more.